Plumtree is unique in that it does provide you with access to for me anyhow, three different types of individual fundings. Given we were previously with a different service provider, we didn't have that level of access. So Plumtree really differentiates itself, and it helps. You feel as though they're actually working in partnership with the family, with your child, to achieve the best that they possibly can for your child, to help with his development, your family's goals. So from that perspective, Plumtree is a fantastic provider for us. Chrissy told me, oh, by the way, you've got funding for Early Start. I go, what's Early Start like? Because we were previously, 3 years with another company, and they never mentioned, or they didn't give us,
You didn't have that option.
Yeah. And I said, oh, really? Oh, I've got more money? Oh, that's fantastic. And then it's been like, well, I don't have to worry about not being able to provide for my child. So the challenge is always trying to find something that our son will enjoy doing, and one of the things we have noticed is that he just loves going to the park, and it seems to bring him so much joy and happiness. And so rather than just focusing all your time on the homework that therapists give you, which proves to be such a huge challenge, as a parent, my advice would be try and find the things that your child enjoys and try and help those things to grow and flourish. And it's more rewarding to see your child happy and enjoying life rather than stuck in a therapy room trying to do a piece of a puzzle, or forcing him to draw and things like that, which he doesn't want to do at the moment. So it's about letting go of certain things and working to their strengths and trying to promote those bits that your child really does enjoy. In terms of the resources that we were able to purchase through the individualised funding, we looked at things such as a tricycle. And I spoke to one of the therapists here at Plumtree and got some input from her as to what would be an appropriate tricycle for my child, given that he was a little bit bigger and he had low muscle tone. So she sort of pointed out a few factors I might want to consider when purchasing a tricycle, things such as a bucket seat, a seat with a high backrest. It had a harness as well to strap him in, and it also had a parent control pole as well, so to assist with the steering. So things like this that you may not, typically consider when you're off to buy a tricycle. In terms of medical equipment, there were some syringes, special syringes we needed to purchase for him for his medication, given that he had a few problems with swallowing. So again, the individualised funding has helped enormously, because those syringes are quite expensive, in that we pretty much need a new one every single week. So that's been fantastic too. Purchasing the slide, for example, our son has very low muscle tone, and so the slide helped him to develop the strength, the core strength in his body and his legs, because he started to climb up the stairs of the slide. So initially he couldn't climb at all when we purchased the slide, and over time he's now doing it all by himself, and I can pretty much just leave him in the backyard and there he is playing with the slide, going up and down, which is a huge change from where we were previously. Similarly, the trampoline's produced a similar result in that he initially, when the trampoline arrived and we erected it, he would just sit on the trampoline and wouldn't do very much, and I was in there with him jumping, trying to stimulate him to jump. Whereas now we can pretty much again put him in the trampoline. It has a safety net around it, so we don't have to worry about him falling off. And whilst he still doesn't have the ability to jump, he is doing a lot of walking, a lot of movement. He bounces on the trampoline. He likes falling on his bottom. And often, again, we will see him in the backyard just laughing and giggling and having a great time. And all of this as well is helping to develop his muscle tone and physical strength, and so we've seen a huge improvement in him as well. With the Better Start individualised funding, we've been using that for approximately 3 years, and we've used it mainly in terms of seeing therapists, speech therapists, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, all to assist with our child's development. It's been extremely beneficial in that you don't have to worry about how you're going to meet the costs of seeing these experts in their field, and they've helped your child to develop, which is your end goal, and we've seen our child progress, which is, you know, the most rewarding thing you can ask for. Yeah, so it's been great. With the pool of funding that we've got through Better Start, one of the great benefits of that is that it does expand over a number of years. So I know that even when my child's ready to start school, I've still got some access to that funding. And the great thing is that with it as well is that we can work with plan our own budget and work out how much money we want to spend each year with the limits that are imposed with the funding. So I don't feel that we're quite restricted. There's lots of decisions that we can make as parents rather than being told what we have to do. There's a lot of freedom with those decisions, even like choosing your own therapist, deciding when you want to use a therapist, when you don't want to use a therapist. You can stop the funding, you can restart the funding. It just works really, really well, and helps us maintaining our finances as well. Our little boy really loves his iPad and can spend the whole day on his iPad if we were to allow him. And the iPad's great in that, you know, there's entertainment on there through various videos and music, which he loves, but there's also other apps that you can put on there to try and develop his cognitive skills, develop his communication skills as well. So you try and balance the two. The iPad is also great in that there are restrictions that you can place on it so that he isn't just totally watching his Wiggle videos or Peppa Pig, that he can also be watching some of those more educational type of apps and participating in those. And often he and I will sit down and work through various apps as well. And one that he really likes at the moment is Elmo ABC, where he often uses my finger to try and trace letters and things like that. So the iPad has been a great resource for him. He loves his books. He's always happy to have someone read a book to him, particularly flap books where he can get involved and lift the flaps and make some sounds if that's what the book is about. With the individualised funding, we've tended to focus on what we consider the bigger ticket items. So with the trampoline, whilst we could have financed a trampoline, we did look at a trampoline that was probably a little bit beyond our means, but it provided all the features that we needed for our child. Like the safety net was extremely important. The fact that it is spring-free as well, so we don't have to worry about him, getting his legs or limbs stuck into springs. So, which is the great part of this funding as well. Like we can contribute an amount to that trampoline, and then we can top it up with the individualised funding. Similarly, when we were looking for an iPad cover, we tended to buy sort of something that was a little bit more sturdy, more protective, again, because a child with additional needs doesn't exactly understand what the iPad is and its limitations, so that when it does get dropped to the ground, it might get destroyed, but if you've got something a bit stronger, it will last longer. So again, individualised funding has has helped in that way, in that it's provided resources to us which we probably wouldn't have considered or would have had, you know, difficulty financing, because it would have been, oh, it's another expense. Whereas this way, you know, it's not another expense for us, because we're complemented with the additional funding that we've received. Similarly, when we looked at an iPad to buy him, we tended to buy an iPad which had greater storage memory for all the apps that he would need, rather than probably an iPad that was cheaper. We tended to buy one that would accommodate him further down the track as well, because there's plenty of memory there now that we can store more apps or more videos that he might need. So again, individualised funding has assisted us in that purchase. Usually with the resources or the services, our family has come up with the ideas as to, well, what do we think we could spend the money on, given where our child is at that point in time. And then we've gone away and had a chat to the experts, the therapists, and sought further input from them to see whether or not that would be something that was appropriate. And usually, you know, they're fully supportive and just give you a few extra tips on other things you should be considering as well. But the ideas have primarily come from us as to where we think our child is at and what he'd be capable of doing. With the Better Start, it is sometimes difficult to try and keep in your head all the restrictions that are associated with it. So they're like, you know, you're supposed to spend you're allocated a certain amount, I think, each year. Again, trying to remember the amounts. What can I spend that on? Some therapists will almost automatically sign off on resources for you, whereas others, it seems to be a bit of an uphill battle. So it's like the knowledge out there amongst the therapists isn't that great. So I think there needs to be a little bit more of communication occurring. The other one I've also come across is where you can use some of your individualised fundings for a private session with a therapist, and you can also use, if you've got private health insurance, you can use that. Again, some of the therapists don't seem to be aware that you can access both at the same time for a session with your child. So I feel there's still a lot of communication that needs to occur, both with the therapist and also with the parents, who may be simplifying some of the restrictions or parameters associated with the amounts you can spend or what you can spend it on. It would be nice to have a pool of money, and you know, you can spend that money to the best of your ability for your child, as to where you feel their development is most needed, without having to think about, oh no, I've got a restriction here, I'm going to run out of money pretty soon. So he could spend the whole day on the swing and mum has to push him. Yeah. So he laughs. It's like he's escaped from somewhere, and he just gets so much joy out of the swing. But he will do some of the other things as well, climbing up and down ladders and going on slides, and he likes things that spin as well. So there's a few spinning type things available at a park. And climbing, he likes to climb hills, and he seems to really enjoy the outdoors, like I guess most little boys do. So it's also like trying to remember as a parent that, you know, you need to do both. It's not just all about therapy.